And so they said if you wanted to make the most successful science fiction or fantasy book of the next 10 years, you would call it Shadow War of the Night Dragons, Book 1, The Dead City. And so I joked, I will totally write that. And they were like, you should do that as a April Fool's thing. And so we did it as an April Fool's thing, and I wrote a 3,000-word story about it. And but some people took it seriously. Not only did some people take it seriously, we actually got Hollywood interest for it.
Really?
It's absolutely true. My agent called me up and he says, "Are you sitting down?" And I sat down. He says, "There's Hollywood interest." And I was like, "You're joking." He says, "No, it's from producers who have done hit movies about wizards with scars." And they said, if at all possible, we'd like to see a galley when it's done. And I said, "Well, what did you say to them?" And they said, and my agent said, "Well, I told them it was an April Fool's joke." And I said, "You fool! We could have written this all the way home."
That's right. That's right.
You need a new agent.
Yeah, clearly I do, but I kept them anyway, for now.
For now.
We have another question here from the blog that says, "Could you talk about red shirts for a bit?" And then they say, "Yes, this is an excuse for a shameless plug."
Oh, okay. Well, Red Shirts is the upcoming novel. It comes out in June of next year, and basically the great thing about this book is when people ask me, "So what are you writing about?" I said, "Well, the title is Red Shirts." They went, "Oh," because at this point only an idiot doesn't know what a red shirt is. And so basically, the concept is these people are on a spaceship and they begin to notice that statistically speaking, they should not actually go on away missions with certain officers. And how do they sort of avoid doing that, and getting killed? And so that's kind of the fun of this particular book is all the ways that they work to avoid, getting themselves, eaten by landworms or ice badgers or whatever you want to call it. And at the same time, not getting, court-martialed and stuff. So it'll be a lot of fun. Is basically what I'm promising people. It's everything you wanted in a space opera and more.
Sweet. Well, there we go. Shameless plug completed. Which is fine because somebody asked for it. So.
Yes, I do what I can for you guys. When it comes to shameless plugs, I'm the most shameless possible.
John, did you log into our chat room and request that on the blog?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. You gotta repeat that.
Oh, Liz was asking if you somehow went in and asked that question yourself.
Oh no! I would never do something that blatant. I would be much more subtle. But I am glad that somebody is that blatant. So whoever they are, thank you.
There's a question here. Who is your favorite writer? Other than yourself, of course.
It's like, which is your favorite child? Obviously I like Heinlein because he and I have a lot of things in common writing-wise. Current writers, I like quite a few of them, but the problem is as president of the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America, if I single out any one of them, the rest will come into my house at the night and stab me through the eyes. So I would just have to say, they're all pretty good. That said, our last couple of Nebula winners, for best novel one was Connie Wells for her Black Out and All Clear, which was fantastic, and the year before that, it was Paula Bacigalupi, who's a personal friend of mine, for The Wind-Up Girl. If you read one or the other of those novels, you really can't go wrong.
Awesome.
Cool. If it makes the whole conflict of interest thing any easier, our chat room seems to have decided that you are in fact the president of science.
I can titrate like nobody's business.
On that topic, we have a question. As the president of science, what is your opinion on weaponized lemons?
And weaponized what?
Lemons.
The citrus
weaponized
fruit.
lemons. The problem is if you start weaponizing lemons, then you move up to grapefruit, and then where does it all end? I think you have to treat citrus with love, not hate. I feel very strongly. If they give you lemons, don't make grenades, make grenade aid.
In response to where does it end, the room has decided that that it ends with an orbital pomelo strike.
There was vitamin C everywhere, man. It was horrible.
I've got so much of my daily recommended intake.
Lifetime recommended intake.
You mentioned This is a question from the blog. You mentioned in your book on writing that you've supported yourself over the years by taking a variety of freelance writing jobs. What's the weirdest thing you've ever written for?
What is the weirdest thing I've ever written for? Oh wow, I have to think about this for a minute. The weirdest thing I ever did would probably be I did a product description for it was a type of hair gel, and it was a small brand that actually never went anywhere. It was basically writing some copy so that they could sell that to other people, and it was hair gel that had glitter in it, which is weird enough, but it was for men. And I was like, really? Really? Sparkly hair gel for men? And I think the problem was it was just ahead of the curve because, quite frankly, if, it had come out the same time as Twilight, it had sparkly vampires, it would have made millions. But it was ahead of its time, and I think that was tragic.
Wow, that is a real missed opportunity.
It really is. I was sort of disappointed on many levels as well. But what can you do? I mean, other than get some hair gel and put some glitter in it, I suppose.
Oh yes. Before I read this next question, it should be mentioned that anyone who gets asked questions during Desert Bus gets an honorary doctorate because all the questions are in this form. Dear Dr. Scalzi, did you approach Paul and Storm, or did they approach you, or was Fuzzy Man just a wonderful surprise?
No. For Fuzzy Man, that was me intentionally approaching them. And Fuzzy Man, for those of you who don't know, is the magnificent power ballad that Paul and Storm wrote as for my novel, Fuzzy Nation. And I had approached them and I said, I require a song for Fuzzy Nation. And they said, what sort of song? And I said, the sort of bombastic, horrifying Michael Bay end credits ballad, that will speak to the generations. And they said, we can do that. And so they went off and they did the thing that they did. And what they wanted to do was actually they pretended like that they had a song that they had written a long time ago that they could never find a place for, and that I had commissioned it. And so they sort of hastily slipped in the words "Fuzzy Man" to this pre-existing song. So it was all very meta. And then when you listen to it, if you know that, it's got this incredible, super ballad, Jim Steinman, ridiculous, over the top, crazy, and I loved it from the minute I heard it, and that made Paul and Storm my special heroes in a completely non-stalkery way.
Cool. That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
Will there be a question here? Will there be a sequel to Your Hate Mail Will Be Graded in 2018? Have people sent more hate mail just to get graded?
Yeah, no, when the book first came out there, people were like, ooh, is this bad enough? And I'm like, you're really missing the point, aren't you? But, I appreciated the enthusiasm. I wouldn't mind writing one in 2008 because that would be 10 years difference. And I think it's possible to do. We'll just have to see. It could be, I eventually end up being boring and not writing anymore. Anything worth recording anymore into print form, but I suspect that there is likely to be a sequel in 2018. I don't know what I will call it yet, but because that's 6 years off. But that is my plan. If there's enough good stuff there, then we will definitely do the sequel.
The chat someone in the chat has decided that you are no longer Dr. Scalzi, you are now Sir Dr. Scalzi, President King of Science.
That's a lot of
I like the way this is going. Give me another 3 minutes, and I will become Herr Kommissar Scalzi.
You've been crowned Scientist in Chief, Scalzi.
Oh, nice.
Excellent.
Do you get sick of, and or how often do you get pleas for more books in the Old Man's War series?
Oh, I get those a lot. I mean, it's my most popular series, so of course people want me to continue to be doing that. And the thing I tell people is I'm not opposed to it. I'm not sitting there going, I will never do this ever again. But it has to be, if I were just to do it and just sort of grind them out because it's like Old Man's War, number 5, even older, many-year warrior, you know, all that sort of stuff, then it would be actually sort of pathetic and sad. So I will write a new one when I have a really good idea for it, and not an instant before, because you know, you don't want to mess up the thing that you actually do really well, because that's a good way to make everybody hate you.
There's another question. I am currently a freshman in college writing a science fiction story. Do you have any advice for who to show a finished manuscript to? Much obliged.
The best thing to do is get yourself a Writer's Writer's Market. Look in there to see what the markets are for that particular manuscript. Find out what the submission requirements are and follow them exactly, because submission requirements are actually an IQ test, and if you don't actually follow them to the letter, you will fail. So that's the easiest thing to do. And then other than that, you know, it's just if you are writing a manuscript and you know that it's a science fiction manuscript, for example, and there's a science fiction place that you like, send it there. Again, read the manuscript submission guidelines and follow them to the letter. I really can't stress that enough. They're looking for a reason not to open up your manuscript and read it.
All right. And this is a question that I feel, well, this feels like a good finisher, not that I'm trying to rush you anywhere, but what is your stance on erotic Star Trek fan fiction?
I think he's making that face right now.
Is there an ocelot involved? Because if there's an ocelot involved, I'm totally down with it.
Good answer. There can
That was a lot more succinct than I had feared. Okay, here we go. Dear Sir Dr. Scalzi, President, King of Science, God, Ruler of Eye Products, what is the strangest or worst science fiction plot that you have ever read?
That I've ever read? Oh God, you got to remember that I used to do reading for to buy stories for science fiction magazines. So it's so hard to pick one, because you know, once you dive into the slush pile, it's just, you know, it's horrifying plots all the way down. But you do get things where you will have, you know, talking badgers, having long drawn-out discussions about objectivism to each other in space with lasers. And when that happens, all you have to do is, just put the manuscript down, sit on the couch and curl yourself up into a fetal position and shiver for about 10 minutes straight. And then you have to go back and read some more of it. So this is the life of someone who reads a lot of science fiction manuscripts.
Wow, that's a particularly awful sounding.
They can't all be good, can they?
Yeah.
Isn't that Sturgeon's law that 90% of everything's
There you go. Pulling back that old question.
What's this? Oh, okay.
World of classic sci-fi.
Okay. Dear Science Admiral Scalzi, in the world of classic sci-fi, i.e. the people who are past being offended at their lack of inclusion due to death or old age, who are your favorites?
Or inspirations.
Let's see. Is this people living or dead?
This is people who are like old enough or dead that they won't care.
Oh, okay. Well, I've always been a big fan of China Mieville's work. One of the things that I really like about his books is that I can read them and go, these are fantastic, and I could never, ever, ever write like this. So, like, the pressure's off. I don't have to worry about what I'm going to steal from him. So that's always a positive. So he's the one I always recommend for people. Like, do you want a real challenge in science fiction? Go read Perdido Street Station. If you can handle that, then you're golden.
All right. Well, hey.
Okay.
What? 1 second. Oh. Someone in the room just asked me how you're enjoying NaNoWriMo.
I love it. I like watching other people panic. I'm not doing it myself at the moment, but I'm a big believer in. It's a good way for you to stretch and actually just learned that actually one of the most important things you can do with writing is to actually sit there and just do it. Just write out a whole bunch of work. And it doesn't really matter if